There is a tiny strip of water on the map that most people never think about. It is narrow, crowded, and easy to overlook. But if this waterway is disrupted, oil prices can jump, shipping companies can panic, governments can respond, and the effects can spread through the global economy. This is the Strait of Hormuz, and it may be the most important traffic jam on Earth. To understand why, look at the map. The Strait of Hormuz sits between Iran and Oman. On one side is the Persian Gulf. On the other side is the open ocean. Inside the Persian Gulf are some of the world's biggest oil and gas exporters: Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Iran. So when a huge amount of oil leaves this region by ship, it has to pass through this narrow exit. That is what makes Hormuz so powerful. It is not important because it is big. It is important because so much has to squeeze through something so small. This is called a choke point. A choke point is a narrow place where trade, energy, or transportation has limited room to pass. Imagine a giant highway with 10 lanes of traffic. Now imagine all those lanes suddenly have to merge into one small bridge. Even if the bridge is short, it becomes the most important part of the entire road. That is the Strait of Hormuz. Every day, massive oil tankers move through this passage, carrying energy that helps power cars, trucks, planes, factories, ships, and electricity grids. So when tension rises near Hormuz, markets pay attention immediately, not because the water itself changed, but because the risk changed. And risk is expensive. If ship owners think the route is dangerous, they may slow down, reroute, or wait. If insurance companies think tankers could be attacked, trapped, or delayed, insurance costs can rise. If traders believe oil might be harder to get, they may push prices higher before anything even happens. That is why the fear of a disruption can move the economy before the disruption fully arrives. Sometimes fear travels faster than ships. Now you might ask, why not just use another route? That sounds simple, but it is not. If oil is already inside the Persian Gulf and it needs to leave by sea, Hormuz is the main exit. Some countries have pipelines that can bypass the strait, but they cannot instantly replace everything that normally moves through the water. So if Hormuz becomes unsafe, the world cannot simply say, take the next exit. There is no next exit big enough. This is where Iran becomes important. Iran sits along the northern side of the Strait of Hormuz, which gives it geographic leverage. It does not necessarily have to fully close the strait to create chaos. Even threats, military activity, drones, mines, ship seizures, or warnings can be enough to make shipping companies nervous. And once shipping companies get nervous, costs rise. Oil becomes more expensive to move. Delivery schedules become less predictable. And countries start asking the same question: what happens if this gets worse? But there is a catch. Closing or disrupting Hormuz would not only hurt Iran's enemies, it could also hurt Iran and the entire region. The Persian Gulf depends on this waterway too. That makes Hormuz a dangerous lever. Pulling it can hurt others, but it can also hurt the person pulling it. So the Strait of Hormuz is not just a military issue. It is a geography issue, an energy issue, a shipping issue, a money issue, and a psychology issue. Because markets do not only react to what is happening now, they react to what they think might happen next. If traders think oil supply could be interrupted, prices can move. If airlines expect jet fuel to become more expensive, ticket prices can be affected. If diesel becomes more expensive, trucking and food delivery can become more expensive. If shipping costs rise, the price of goods can rise too. That is how a problem in one narrow waterway can eventually reach regular people far away. You might feel it at the gas pump. You might feel it in flight prices. You might feel it in groceries. You might feel it in inflation. Not always instantly, not always equally, but the connection is real. And that is the bigger lesson. The modern world feels huge, advanced, and powerful, but it still depends on tiny physical places staying open. A canal, a port, a pipeline, a strait. One small bottleneck can expose how fragile the whole system really is. So could the Strait of Hormuz crash the world economy? Not automatically. The world has emergency reserves, alternative suppliers, pipelines, naval protection, and diplomacy. But Hormuz matters because it is one of the few places where geography, energy, money, and military power all collide. It is a tiny waterway with enormous consequences, a small blue line on the map that carries a huge part of the world's energy anxiety. And that is why, whenever tension rises there, governments watch, markets react, and the rest of the world holds its breath.